Super Mario RPG. Such a beloved game. But why? It's a good game, sure, but many people claim it to be one of the best RPGs on the SNES. And the SNES has a lot of RPGs. Final Fantasy, Dragon Quest, Chrono Trigger, Paladin's Quest, Bahamut Lagoon, Secret of Mana, Secret of Stars, just to name a few. And that's not even including the action RPGs like Zelda and Brainlord. So to name it as one of the best, yeah, I'm a bit hesitant about that. Granted, the last time I played Mario RPG was over 10 years ago, but I was able to finally acquire a copy of my own recently, so I played through it again for the second time. Did my opinion change? No. Sorry everyone, I'm not hopping on the Mario RPG bandwagon. I'm not saying it's a bad game. In fact, far from it. I'm saying that it's good, but not perfect. Let's talk about it in depth, shall we? First off, I should note that Mario RPG was co-developed by Nintendo and Squaresoft. You know, Square. The Final Fantasy guys. So right from the start, you can expect a quality story along with some solid combat mechanics. The plot itself goes that the princess has been kidnapped yet again by Bowser, and Mario skipped the 8 or so worlds and went right to his castle. After thumping a few low-level baddies, Mario encounters Bowser and fights him on top of a couple of chandeliers. Not exactly the most stable environment for a battle, but Mario succeeds by striking the chain jump holding up the elaborate light fixture. Before Mario can safely extract Peach from the castle, a mysterious new sword creature from the clouds plunges into the building, kicking Mario out and leaving the princess to be a hostage once again. It's now up to Mario to find a way back into Bowser's castle and save the princess, along with stopping this new threat to the Mushroom Kingdom. In an interesting take on all the previous Mario games, you control Mario on an isometric map. Mario can move in all directions, and can jump at any time by pressing B. No, you can't just defeat enemies by jumping on them in the field now, but you can navigate the terrain, as well as finding hidden item boxes by jumping. Defeating enemies instead takes place in a standard turn-based battle. At the start of the game, Toad will give a small tutorial if you request it, as this isn't your standard mash a button to keep hitting the attack option kind of game. Instead, you have a bit more control over your offensive and defensive abilities. This is how it works. You run into an enemy on the field in order to initiate a battle. You have several standard options available to you: attack, skill, item, and defensive options, all available by pressing their designated button. Instead of having a cancel option, you just press one of the other face buttons. For example, if you accidentally hit X to use an item, but you really want to use a special move, while the item menu is open, you just press Y. It's a bit odd, but it works well enough. After choosing an option, you pick the target and the action plays out. However, for your standard attacks, as well as most skills, there's a bit more to it. If you press A at the right time, or Y when it comes to skills, Mario and crew will add an extra little flourish to their attack, dealing more damage. For Mario's punch glove, he'll throw a second punch, and for Gino's shot, it just has more force. This timing is very easy to get down once you understand the weapon, and you'll know that it worked because of a sound effect that will play on successful timings. Skills are a bit more difficult to get down until you memorize the animations, but even these are simple enough to master. Similarly, you can press A when on defensive. When an enemy attacks, if you press A at the right time, the attacked character will brace themselves for damage, reducing the amount of life lost in an attack, oftentimes negating it completely. These defensive moves are a bit more difficult to get down though. Enemies may have strange attack animations, and oftentimes you have to hit the right button after the creature clearly struck the target. There are some enemies I just never really got the hang of, but the game is easily completable regardless. Of note though is that many enemy skills, especially spell type skills like Crystal or Static E, are unblockable, so keep that in mind. Speaking of spells, of course Mario and crew get their own abilities. Mario has various forms of his trademark jump, and by pressing Y in time with his landings, he can continuously jump for more damage. He also gets a fireball attack, in which you simply mash Y to throw more flames. But since this is an RPG, Mario also gets some friends to tag along, including Bowser of all people, that all have their own unique skill sets. For the record, Bowser's a bit distraught that he lost his castle to some unknown entity, and enlists Mario's help by giving him the title of an honorary Koopa Troop member to make it sound like Bowser's still in charge. In addition, you'll find the princess, who is an amazing healer and worth keeping in the party as soon as you get her, as well as two new characters, Mallow and Geno. Mallow is a pudgy creature that mixes support and elemental damage with a backstory that isn't apparent until about 3/4 into the game. Geno is a being from the Star Road, out to repair the aforementioned road by finding the 7 star pieces that fell to Earth when the sword creature burst through the clouds. And that's it. 5 total characters, with Luigi strangely being nowhere in sight until the credits. Anyway, Mallow is a great magician that you find early in the game, with a lightning spell that strikes all enemies and rudimentary healing rain. Bowser focuses on brute force and intimidation. Geno is a great mix of physical and magical strength. With this said though, there's a slight problem with the spells. They all use the same magical pool, called flower points. Sure, items to replenish this FP are fairly plentiful and can be bought in stores with the coins that you find in the world, but it's still kind of annoying that everyone shares them. In addition, the only way to increase the maximum FP count are to find flowers, flower tabs, and flower jars. Level ups do not increase these, so if you can't find these flowers, you won't be relying on your skills too much. Although, to be honest, I personally didn't really rely on these special skills all that often anyway. Sure, the healing powers of Mallow and Peach are undeniably useful, but most attack skills are kind of overpriced in their FP costs and not quite as useful as a good timed standard attack. Mario's Super Jump, for example, may use double-digit FP and do about 150 damage, even if you can get a good 16 or 17 bounces in. Yet his normal attack may do just about that, or even more in some cases. It got to the point where I just stopped using these skills, except for support. So with all that said, what's the point of leveling up? Well, every other stat can be increased by doing so, although I'm sure you probably already expected that. What the game does a bit differently is that during a level up, after the game shows you what base stats increased, you get additional input on how to further tweak the character, done in 3 different categories. The character going up in level has 3 options: HP, Strength, or Magic. By choosing one of these, stats in that category will increase even further. In this way, you can alter what kind of strengths each character has. For example, I made Mario a strength powerhouse, allowing him to do hefty damage with all of his standard strikes. For the princess, I focused on HP and Magic. It's completely up to you on how you focus these extra stats. Do you keep them even? Do you always pick the stat that gives more of a boost than others? Or do you hit strength every time until they max out at level 30? What's a bit more unusual for Mario RPG is that the 2 party members that aren't currently in your battle lineup still earn experience points, which is an awesome change of pace. There are certain areas that are more suited for certain characters, and due to this mechanic, you'll never have to worry if they are too underleveled to potentially use. Being that this is an RPG and Mario will be exploring the countryside, there are plenty of other colorful characters that you'll be encountering. There is a world map of sorts, and by selecting an area, Mario will enter that, shall we say, stage. The areas can be separated into normal fields where he enters battles with observed enemies, or towns in which he can talk to the inhabitants and buy gear. You'll want to talk to everyone, because not only can they give some useful hints for your journey, but there is also some great humor involved in the game. There is a very lighthearted feel to the whole thing, and you'll never really know what you're going to read next. Mario himself doesn't talk, but he acts out many scenes, even by somehow shapeshifting into creatures that he's encountered to get the point across, while bystanders all gape at the presentation. It just feels like it fits in this style of game. There are also plenty of mini-games that you'll encounter. A wild minecart ride, a drop from a waterfall collecting coins, a lengthy run up a slope to grab flowers, the Great Yoshi Race. These are nice little diversions from the standard journey. There are usually some okay prizes to be found doing these as well, like elusive frog coins that can later be used to purchase an accessory to double your experience gain for one character. There's also an accessory that, for some reason, is more expensive than that, which doubles your gold, but your coins max out at 999, and this is achieved very, very early into the game, so I didn't find this one all that necessary. Not everything in Mario RPG is fire, flowers, and happy clouds, however. Being that the game is, well, a Mario game, there are a few platforming segments that you'll encounter, but the fact that the game takes place in an isometric view makes some of these jumps aggravating to accomplish. The best example is when you're climbing up these vines to a city in the sky. Everything is on a permanent slant, so actually grabbing hold of these plants took me a few tries. not to mention a few areas where there are rotating platforms over lava or some other treacherous hazard. These more frustrating parts are few and far between, but it does need to be mentioned. Also worth mentioning is my biggest complaint with Mario RPG: the overall jankiness. I want to say this in the most polite way possible. Mario RPG is not a smooth playing game. There is a general stuttering that you'll encounter in the game, and it's probably due to the visual style. With it having this 3D themed look, the game's frame rate tends to be in the lower ranges. If this was anything but an RPG, it would have probably made it a bit less playable. But with this genre, we're fine. Except, however, that this choppiness can attribute to some difficult timings during combat, especially with the enemies that attack with minimal animation frames. Again, I must say that this does not detract enough from the game to make it unplayable, but it does tend to make me think what the game would be like if it had the Super Mario World style smoothness. Also, when in combat, many of the special skills look kinda disappointing and, truthfully, lazily animated. Maybe I'm just used to the beautifully crafted spells from Final Fantasy VI, but here, Static is just a lame bunch of pixels floating across the screen, while fireballs rotate with a shifting red and yellow hue before landing with a mediocre gout of flame. Nyeh. Finally, the music of the game is very hit or miss. For the most part, Mario RPG delivers some fun, upbeat tunes that you'd expect in Mario games, along with the dread-evoking dungeon exploration songs. But then you come across the theme that's played here. Oh boy, what were they thinking with this one? Such a short, obnoxious loop, and you'll be talking with Frogfucius for a while. This isn't the only bad song in the game, but it's the one that comes to mind immediately for me. So that's Super Mario RPG. It may be a classic RPG on the SNES, but it's far from my favorite RPG. In fact, I don't even think I could put it in the top 10. Sorry, not sorry. Yes, it's a good game. I enjoyed most of the time I spent with it. The charming visuals, humorous plotline, easy to get into combat mechanics, they all worked well together. I just wish that the game had a slightly higher frame rate. If you're new to RPGs, this is the perfect game to start with, as it's not too challenging. And don't worry, I'm prepared for all the hateful comments you guys are about to send me. Final score, 6 out of 7. This is Reaper. Happy fragging.